Announcing the commencement of the first purge.
I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
Just remember all the good the purge does.
Good morning, everyone. May 29th, 2018. I'm here at Activist Post. U.S. warns of firm response if Syria attacks ISIS. Really? This comes from Brandon Turbyville. In an apparent attempt to remove all pretense that the United States is nothing more than Al-Qaeda's air force in Syria, the American government is warning its Syrian counterpart that if the SAA moves ahead with its upcoming southern offensive to remove ISIS and Al-Qaeda terrorists from its southern borders, the U.S. will take firm action or firm and appropriate measures. In other words, the United States is telling Syria that it had better not attack ISIS forces or else. Indeed, American firm and appropriate measures seem like a very thinly veiled threat of military action, particularly since the United States seems incapable of taking any measures that aren't kinetic in nature outside of its borders. After liberating the Yarmouk camp south of Damascus and quickly liberating a stretch of territory between Homs and Aleppo, the Syrian military is building up forces in the south of the country in a much anticipated move to liberate Daraa and the surrounding areas bordering with Jordan and the Israeli-occupied Golan. Of course, while no one who has been following the Syrian crisis would be surprised that the nation who funded, organized, trained, armed, and directed terrorist forces in Syria, including ISIS, would do whatever it could to protect its proxy army. It is rather surprising to see the U.S. government so openly state that ISIS terrorists are off limits, and to do away with even the formalities of pretending that it wants to see Daesh destroyed. As Al-Masdar News reports, the United States Department issued the U.S. State Department issued a statement late Friday saying it was concerned by leaflets which were reportedly dropped by government aircraft in the province of Daraa. According to reports circulating among pro-opposition monitors, the leaflets called on the militants to stop fighting and reconcile with the Syrian government. Otherwise, they would allegedly gamble their lives and head to inevitable death. We also caution the Syrian regime against any actions that risk broadening the conflict or jeopardize the ceasefire, said spokeswoman Heather Nauert, noting that the ceasefire had been reaffirmed by Washington and Moscow last November as a guarantor of this de-escalation area with Russia and Jordan, the United States will take firm and appropriate measures in response to the Assad regime's violation. So, the United States dictates to a sovereign government, a sovereign nation, what, or more precisely, whom they may or may not kill. Yet, President Trump has surpassed Barack Obama's drone strikes, murdering God knows how many innocent civilians. Yet, when Syria wants to kill people that are in their country, killing its citizens, it's somehow wrong. The fact is that the United States is watching its plan to destroy the Syrian government fail before its very eyes. Now it is moving to enact Plan B, aka the federalization of Syria into microstates, to the benefit of the Atlantists' geopolitical goals. Zionists would be the appropriate word. Atlanteans, as far as I know, they've been gone for quite a while. So, I will call it Zionist geopolitical goals and the regional position of Israel. Like I said, Zionist. In order to do so, it is necessary to keep as many terrorist elements inside Syria as possible in order to keep the Syrian government under constant pressure and ensure the delineation of ethnic religious boundaries. The presence of ISIS in southern Syria also gives the United States a reason to remain in Syria, since it claims its presence in the country revolves around the destruction of ISIS. Of course, even that reason would not change the fact that the American presence is entirely illegal. As the U.S. becomes more and more desperate to overthrow Assad and or partition the country, its military action is becoming more and more reckless, and its public statements are becoming more and more open as to where its allegiance lie. But speaking of lying, it is unfortunate that the average attention span of the average Westerner is so short. If it were longer, Americans might remember when the U.S. government told them, Number 1. The U.S. opposes all terrorism and is engaged in a war against terrorism. No. The U.S. government and military are the terrorists. And they are opposing anyone, in particular, the Syrian government, who wishes these terrorists, ISIS, Israeli Secret Service, Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. That's what it means. Just ask Ken O'Keefe. Number 2. The U.S. wants stability in the Middle East. No, the U.S. wants the minerals, artifacts, and oil from the Middle East. It does not give a shit about the stability. Number 3. Assad is a brutal dictator who kills his own people. I refer you to the thousands of people that are killed each year by our government in one way or another. If it's not through direct police brutality, it is through the medical system. If it's not through the medical system, it is through the judicial system. One way or the other, the U.S. government kills its own people constantly. Number 4, Syrians hate Assad. If this were the case, then the Syrians would not be voting for Assad. The rebels were all, or this is number 5, the rebels were all democracy-loving peace protesters. Really? Really? Do you believe that? Do you? If you do, I have some bull sperm to sell you that will make you super strong. Okay. Number 6. The rebels were violent only in reaction to a horrific crackdown by the Syrian military. I refer you to my bull sperm comment. Number 7. The rebels were democracy-loving freedom fighters. They were no terrorist elements. Number 8. The rebels were overwhelmingly democracy-loving freedom fighters with some jihadist elements who had infiltrated their ranks. No, their entire ideology is based around jihad. It's based around killing infidels. It's based around convert or kill. My son asked me yesterday, isn't Christianity and Muslims, aren't they pretty much the same? And I explained to him that no, they're not exactly the same. They're far from being the same. While I don't really support either religion, I have to point out that the Islamic people, they're a lot like the necromongers from the Chronicles of Riddick, with a couple of exceptions. For example, their belief that you should keep what you kill. Now, I don't think the Muslims have that rule, but they do have the same mentality when it comes to you either convert or you die. And Christianity doesn't have that anymore. So, they're a lot different. Okay, number 9, the rebels were Syrian. They were not Syrian. They were from every other nation around that area except for Syria. Mainly, I would venture to say, mainly ISIS is made up of Israeli intelligence people and the United States military, along with some Arabs mixed in there. And I know it's a big claim to make, but you have to recall that, number 1, these ISIS members are driving around in American pickup trucks, or should I say, pickup trucks from America. And then, of course, you have the picture of the so-called ISIS terrorist. I say so-called because the individual had a U.S. Army tattoo on his arm. Just saying. The rebels, the number 11, the rebels were jihadists, but better than ISIS. Number 12, the U.S. is not involved in Syria. Number 13, the U.S. is not supporting rebels, even though they openly admit to funding and creating some of these groups, right? And number 14, the U.S. is in Syria to defeat ISIS. I refer you back to number 12. It says the U.S. is not involved in Syria. It can't be both ways. And we have come full circle, and the United States is openly threatening Assad, Syria, in support of ISIS. And in 2001, Americans were told to shred their constitutional rights and accept a police state due to an alleged attack by Al-Qaeda. And of course, Al-Qaeda had no such capabilities. Of course, Zionists and Jews and PNAC are the ones responsible for 9/11. Hope everyone has a good day. Kill the state before the state kills you.